and welcome to the Will Leitch Show. I am the aforementioned Will Leitch, and I thank you for spending part of your day with me. Today's show is about innocence in the NFL. Now, when I was a kid, I thought the NFL was just about the most fun thing in the world. Football wasn't my favorite sport, and it wasn't the one I played the most. Those were baseball and getting stuffed in lockers, respectively. But it was the one I found the most purely enjoyable to watch. The sport was, and remains, mesmerizing on television, as if it were specifically built for the medium. Every game on television looks like two miniature armies pushing against each other from the left side of your house to the right side of your house, and then back again. The helmets were colorful, the personalities loud and magnetic, and the announcers just the right bit of hype man and huckster. John Madden's boom, making the game feel like a cartoon, or, yeah, a video game. As I got older, the reality of the game became clearer. What it put the men who played it through, how ugly and gross the business side could be, and how it often represented the worst our country had to offer rather than its best. The thing is, though, it did not actually make me stop watching. It just made me feel guilty about watching. Knowing how the sausage was made didn't turn me off to the sport or make me stop playing fantasy football or get me less physically attracted to Jerry Jones' beautiful, totally natural face. All it did was put a pit in my stomach while I was enjoying those things. They made me wonder if I was doing something wrong by watching, which is much different than not watching altogether. In the last few years, NFL loyalists have turned this instinct, one that's shared by thousands of other people, into a political action. They've rebelled against it and turned the NFL into a cause, shutting all that out and just saying, hey, it's entertainment, keep your real world out of our sports. This seems deceptive and disingenuous and dishonest and all told, totally sane and reasonable. This is what I should be doing, right? If I don't have the courage of my own convictions to stop watching the sport altogether, and to be very clear, I do not, then I shouldn't torture myself by feeling bad about it, right? Like, who am I trying to kid? Today's guest is Hall of Fame football journalist Andrea Kremer, who has covered the NFL for decades and has gone through every possible permutation with the sport, now working as chief correspondent for health and safety reporting for the NFL Network. She loves the sport and is trying to make it safer. She's able to do both of those things. But I wonder, and I should ask her, she'll be right here, if when she's watching a game, if she's thinking about health and safety, or if she's thinking about the game. Can you chew gum and enjoy the NFL at the same time? I find myself envious sometimes of the old me, the one who just dove headfirst into the NFL and lapped up every ounce of it. That person isn't as enlightened as I am now, but he's also probably enjoying himself a lot more. And it's not like my fretting is making any sort of difference anyway. My discomfort isn't helping anybody, and it isn't stopping me from watching the game either. It is mostly performative, to be honest, and entirely useless. You know what? I think I actually like old me better. But then again, don't we always? Our guest today is a longtime NFL reporter, currently with the NFL Network, HBO Real Sports, and CBS Sports Network, and this August, and this is very exciting, inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and given the Pete Rozelle Radio TV Award by the aforementioned Pro Football Hall of Fame. Please welcome the great Andrea Kremer. Madame, very much an honor. Very much an honor. Very much an honor. Oh, okay.
Between two pillows, not two ferns.
Not two ferns.
Okay.
No. I'm highly allergic to anything green and or alive. Thank you for coming. Congratulations. I have to say, I've been very excited. I've known you. We've known each other for a while, and I'm very excited. I've not had a chance to actually tell you. How do you feel? Do you feel? Are you still like kind of floating a couple inches off the ground with the Hall of Fame stuff?
I am much more comfortable telling the story than being the story. Mm-hmm. But it's been pretty amazing. In some ways, this is sort of macabre. It's sort of like living through your own funeral because you get a lot of tributes and people telling you how much they've meant to your career, which is unbelievably inspiring to me.
Plus, you get to hear it. You're not.
But you get to hear it. That's the good news is I'm here,
yeah,
and the second best part of the news is that I'm not retiring.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
retired.
Exactly.
So.
You're like still just doing.
Yes,
just
exactly.
Doing the same
So
thing.
it's been pretty great, and then of course sharing it with my family.
Of course,
It's
great. And you know, it's fun because we do a theme for each one of these shows, and one of the things that's fascinating for me about the NFL is, and and currently with what you cover now for the NFL Network, it's interesting because my fandom of the NFL is actually mostly the same. Like I actually watch it just as much and like it just as much. I just find that I feel guiltier about watching it than I used to, which is to me feels kind of counterproductive.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, but I'm also like I'm not doing it. Like I'm still watching it. I'm saying this is bad. I feel bad that I'm watching this, but I still watch. I'm curious, as someone that has been involved with the NFL and been covering the NFL for so long, but not that long. I mean, you've been doing your entire career. But the way you've reacted to the league, the way you've reacted to the sport, has that changed over that time? Have you adjusted your attitude about it, or do you still feel like you still were just as much kind of on the outside covering it as you were when you started?
Well, it's interesting because it's not only have I covered it for 30 plus years, but I grew up a fan.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, the reason I'm in sports is because I loved the NFL as a little girl. And my parents thought that was okay. They didn't try to dissuade me from doing something else. You get to the point where, as the old expression goes, you see how the sausage is made, and it's tough. But I feel that I've been able to do some pretty significant stories, primarily for HBO Real Sports, as well as for the NFL Network. We've looked into health and safety issues that have existed and things of that nature. I mean, early on there, I did a story on a player who had suffered four concussions in 4 months, which is sort of terrifying. And so I think I've been able, what I've been able to do, hopefully, is shine the light on certain issues that I think need to be brought to light, and not drink the Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah, and listen. I write for MLB.com, and I have things that I think to say negative about MLB all the time. And I'm fortunate enough, knock on wood, that they go ahead and let me do that.
Well, it doesn't have to be looked at as saying negative. You can just this is the
factual.
reality.
Right, exactly. I'm not like going and but what I find interesting though is that, like, listen, I very much love watching the NFL. Like I do. Like I can't kid myself. I love it pretty much just as much as I did as a kid. But now I know more information about it. Do you? And this is I think a lot of people face this. A lot of people are trying to figure out. Okay, I like this game. Is there a point where I can get to where I will stop, or at least I will go back a little? Do you? Seeing how the sausage is made, and listen, not just player safety. I mean, like, look at that, for crying out loud, the idea of watching the NFL has become almost like a political act for some people in a lot of ways. Are you able to still, that same joy that you had when you were a little girl that made you love football, do you still, because I have to say, I still kind of have that, I just feel guilty about it. Do you still have it, or have you been able to be removed enough?
Well, the one thing that goes away, I think, when you become a journalist covering really any sport, I think, is the fandom goes away. So it was interesting at the Super Bowl this year because I grew up in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I have some questions about that.
Long-suffering Eagles fan, but I live outside of Boston. So it hadn't occurred to me that people are like, what are you rooting for? And first of all, it didn't occur to me to root for anybody, but then all of a sudden I realized that people were looking at that dynamic and wondering. But no, I enjoy watching football. That's not a bad thing. I know what it is. I understand the issues that are there. Sometimes what I do think gets so lost is it's a combination of the sheer violence with the incredible athletic achievement and accomplishment that you see. That's incredible. Nobody, you can still love football, and you should not watch it without your eyes wide open and understand what it is. And that's how it is for the players today of this generation. You need to know what the reality is if you're going to suit up and play football. Yeah, it's been at any level.
Yeah, and it's been, what's been funny to me is to see. I think was it Bart Scott that talked about how, like, Bart Scott, one of the toughest dudes in the NFL. He talked about it as like, well, I'm playing in the NFL, so my kids don't have to, which was weird to think that, like, well, it's like you're not a coal miner, but it felt like the way that he kind of talked about it. But that's, and I see that, I'll be like, yeah, it's very dark. That's a good decision to make for your family. But then I'm like, I got a fantasy football draft coming up, and this is actually, and I find that dichotomy. I remember the journalist Patrick Ruby. Of course. And I worked with him at Sports on Earth a few years ago, and he was the first person to ever tell me, I'm not going to watch the NFL anymore. And I was like,
and did he really hold himself to that?
Well, Patrick, he's more, but it was funny. I was like, I looked at him, I was like, but wait, you write about sports. Like, it's weird. Like, it felt like, yes, I'm not going to be involved with competitive hang gliding anymore because that doesn't affect my life in any way, shape, or form. But to see, and when he said that, he was like the first person that had ever said it. I thought he looked at him as like an alien. And I'll say, I still have people say that to me. I still, I've had a lot more people say it to me in the last few years. Patrick is still the only one who actually doesn't watch. Everybody still watches. Everyone actually still watches.
But again, you know, if you're in sports, not even if you're, well, forget he's obviously not a beat writer, but if you're in sports, this is part of
game,
what
man.
you have to be able to follow and what you have to know. So
there's no greater gig than to be on one of the NFL shows too, if you're in media.
Right, and the other thing you got to remember is we're talking about sports, the sport of pro football, but it's a business, and it has all those implications as well, which is why it gets covered oftentimes by mainstream media. Let's have a good day and not get into the political implications that are there, because
we'll do our best.
I believe that the hijacking of the national anthem issue is just so unfortunate. It so obfuscates. Ooh,
that was good.
Ivy League word.
Someone's in the Hall of Fame.
Right. It does. It overlooks the incredible work that so many of these guys are doing. And that's not being a homer. That's understanding and seeing up close. I've done some work with the Players Coalition, and the work that they do that is truly significant in the community, it should be honored. But nobody wants to talk about that. They just want to take the roll call. Sitting, standing, raised fist in the locker room.
Where did they get the idea to do that? I don't even.
Don't you have to go to commercial?
Anyway, okay,
I will. Or something? No.
Don't worry, that'll come up again. So we'll let you off the hook off that regard and go to our frivolous questions of dubious.
Okay.
Frivolous questions of dubious. Question number 1. Congratulations again on your induction to the Hall of Fame. Did it take a little bit of the excitement out of it when you learned that you had to go to Ohio to accept?
No, I've been to Canton before. And
I know, but Ohio.
No. I'm not going to diss Ohioans. Come on, dude. No.
I love Ohio, really. Okay, do you get a bronze bust? You don't get a bronze bust for the Pete Rozelle Award, do you?
No, I get a plaque.
You get a plaque?
I get a plaque, yes.
Does it have your face, or is it just?
No, it is a plaque that has words on it.
I think that's a blessing.
Right.
I think that's a blessing.
No gold jacket. And no.
No plaque has ever looked even vaguely at
any
all
bust.
Like
Yes.
So the bust.
Yeah. No. I get a plaque.
Did you get nervous watching Ray Lewis's speech, going, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I was going to say"?
No. Luckily, I went before Ray.
I know.
Luckily, I went before Ray.
It seems like you guys would have come from different places, I think.
Yeah. No, I will admit that the one thing that kind of, the moment that kind of threw me was, so they had produced a story on me, which I was very honored because I had asked, and she immediately accepted. Robin Roberts voiced it over, and that to me was a really great honor. So they run the whole piece in the stadium. And then I'm walking out with David Baker, who, by the way, is like 6'8" and looks like he could eat me in one bite. And the one thing I did say to him, I said, David, just kind of walk slowly because I am a woman wearing heels. Oh, by the way, you haven't had very many women up here, so get used to that.
Keep that in mind.
Right. So I get up there, and he presents me with the plaque, and I look out, and the Hall of Famers were standing, and the audience was standing. And David says to me, you can hear him say, look, they're standing for you. And that was the moment that it all became real. I couldn't believe that I got a standing ovation.
That's okay. Show's over. I don't want to.
No. It was
wonderful.
It was a very intense moment.
Yeah.
It was a very intense moment.
I said, and this was really like not that long ago. Like this is airing in 2046, but eventually.
Don't worry, we'll both still be working, so that's all right.
We'll still, if the world still exists in 2046.
That's right.
But I just can't. I mean, you've got to just still be just. I mean, I got to be doing cartwheels for crying out.
It doesn't change anything for me because I'm still a grinder, if you will, and all that. It's just nice to know that the acknowledgement is there, and I really kind of didn't think it would ever happen because, as we just referenced a few minutes ago, I have done stories that could be argued would not be necessarily favorable to the NFL, but the reality is there's stories that had to be told about marijuana usage, about drug usage, about painkillers, about concussions, about cheerleader abuse, you name it, and I've probably touched on it. And in fact, so the story that Hall of Fame piece that I had a little clip in there from Real Sports where I was asking a player about marijuana usage, and one of the NFL executives from the Hall of Fame goes, well, that's the first time we've heard marijuana talked about here at the Hall of Fame. And it just, I said, good.
Yeah,
That's all right.
That's actually
okay.
also overdue.
Yes,
frankly,
it is. Yes, it is.
To say the least. Okay, should I feel guilty for stealing a friend's HBO Go password? I'm talking. I know I'm actually talking to someone that does work for HBO. Should I feel guilty doing it? I mean, like.
Well, I don't know. As a company person, shouldn't I say pay for it, dude? Come on, you can afford it.
I do pay for it.
But I don't know. I wanted to know. I was speaking to your producer Nick, and I was explaining to him how I just want you to know, by the way, I know it's different from Sports Illustrated. I have Sports Illustrated's every magazine since the 70s.
Oh yeah, that's
okay. I have every magazine, and I love SI.com, but they're making me pay separate for SI TV.
Honestly, and I'll say this to the people watching: you've paid. So
and thank goodness that you have.
So just saying, you're on a visiting field here now.
That's right. Exactly.
They've paid. But seriously, you're totally right. Okay, what is the dull? You've of course covered not just football. You covered many sports.
Everything.
What's the dullest sport to cover? What's the one event you've been like, okay, I can't believe this is not something I want to do with my time.
You know, I'm going to give you an answer you're not going to like because I know you want me to come up with.
Don't say this show.
No. You know what? One time when I was back at ESPN. Football season was starting again, and one of the associate producers said to me, "How do you do it every year? You start anew with this energy and this." And then I go, "In some ways, it's like a Broadway show, because as a performer, it's your job to make every show unique because that audience is different. So for me, it's my job to find something interesting to talk about, to write about, to commentate about." There's got to be some storyline. So, again, I can't think of anything where I've said, "Oh my God, are you really sending me out to this?"
Right.
I will say no.
Okay.
This isn't dull. But I remember again back at ESPN early on. So I'm early on. So I haven't built the gravitas to be able to say no yet.
Right.
It was Comiskey Park. Turn back the clock day.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember when they used to do that?
Of course.
It was in in the Bill Veeck great
of course.
feeling. So they want me to go and cover it. And I said to them, here's the deal. I will go and cover it in period costume. They sent me to find I wore a long dress. I went back to whatever the year was, and I don't remember, 30s, 40s, whatever the year was, and I was in period attire. And I did a stand-up, and I made some reference to this didn't exist, and back in those days, female reporters didn't exist either. So even there, a situation that was not up my alley, I tried to make it relevant and fun.
That is excellent. I also want to find that footage. That's got to be.
Oh, it exists. Believe me, I got a picture of it. Believe me.
Okay, we do this question on every show, but we always like to remark, poor Bob Costas. Remember when he was doing the Olympics?
Sure.
And he had the pink eye, and
of course, the red eyes.
Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever come out? You've been on television probably as much as.
Okay, well, number one, you're talking to someone who I was on the air 4 days after giving birth.
I know. So
there was that. That is not a disability. But
that's amazing.
In the Costasian way, I was actually on the air within a week of having surgery for detached retina.
Whew.
And you can't fly.
Right.
Luckily, it was when I was doing Sunday Night Football, and it was a Giants game, and I couldn't wear makeup or anything. I wore glasses. And somebody says, "Oh, you're sporting the Diane Keaton look," but the funny thing is, I remember it was Giants Panthers, and I remember going up to the two head coaches and just saying, "Here's the deal. I had a retinal detachment surgery, so I can't run after you at halftime. So all I'm asking you is, please, can we just meet here and please don't run?" And they're like, "Oh my God, should you be doing this?" Walking off the field, I had the Giants. Tom Coughlin runs over to me and says, "Are you okay?" And he's asked me, I'm like, "Okay, we only have 2 minutes. I need to talk to you. Forget about me."
But no time for apologies.
So I unfortunately do understand the mentality of playing hurt. And
as he went through, that was a lot.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so now No, shut the cameras off. Shut the cameras off.
Yeah, right.
You were rooting for the Eagles. Come on, you were rooting for the Eagles.
It didn't hit me. After the game, I'm on the field. I look up, I see Jeff Lurie, for whom I have tremendous respect, as I do for Robert Kraft. And I saw the Eagles fans, and I had some friends that I helped get tickets and stuff like that. And, in tears and crying. Here's when it hit me. At the parade, was not there, but the parade ended at the Philadelphia Art Museum, very iconic, iconic place. I grew up, if this is the art museum, I grew up right here.
Oh, wow.
Literally across the street. I mean, you could look out of my bedroom window as a kid and see the Benjamin Franklin Parkway.
Wow.
When I saw that is when it really hit me as a kid. I mean, wow, I never thought this would happen because I was there for the Flyers winning back-to-back, and I was there for the Sixers and the Phillies. Never really thought I'd see it with the Eagles. And so at the parade is when it really, really hit me.
And the Eagles, I mean, nothing against the 76ers, Phillies, and Flyers, but the Eagles.
It's a whole different mentality. We know how brutal the Eagles fans can be, pelting Santa Claus with snowballs and things like that. But the flip side is that I'd be hard-pressed to find more knowledgeable, more absolutely just crazed, true fans of their Eagles. And I sat in the stands in the 1980 NFC Championship game when Wilbert Montgomery ran wild on the Cowboys to advance to the Super Bowl, where they got killed by the Raiders. But it was amazing. That's when you realize the impact of the sport, what it does to an entire city, to an entire region.
So, Eagles fans are going to be happy now, right? Like they're happy people. Like they're going to be totally, now that this has happened, the reputation will fly away and they'll just be happy, good-hearted, warm people who just walk around with sunshine and smiles on their face.
That I cannot attest to that. We can never take it away from them.
You can't.
That's one thing. They will always be residents of Super Bowl champion city.
Just don't turn into Patriots fans. That's all I ask of you, Philadelphia fans. This leads to the next question. I did not know that climbing light poles was a massive thing in Philadelphia. Have you ever climbed a light pole?
I must admit, I have never climbed a light pole. Okay. No, therefore I've never been.
You must admit. I was like, oh my gosh, she's
there you go. No, I don't want to be disappointing you here, Will,
please.
But no, I don't even know where that came from.
It seems odd.
No, but I am proud to say that when I was actually inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame last November, and my husband and son were there, and I made sure that my son had his first ever cheesesteak. Oh, so there you go.
Was he okay? Was it?
Yeah, he was good with it.
Was it Gino's or was it?
It was at Jim's. Excuse me. I'm sorry. It was at Pat's.
Pat's, right.
I love Jim's. I love Pat's. But the funny thing is, my husband is from San Francisco. So we get there, and I said, okay, you just have to understand there's a whole culture involved here. You don't just say, please give me a cheesesteak, sir.
Right,
there's a whole language. You got wit. You got, and the wit is with the onion. So he goes up there and he says, I'd like a cheesesteak with onions. I'm like, no, dude,
we just talked about this.
Rewind the tape. Just, no. So, but yes, you got to have a cheesesteak.
Speaking of which, you are much smarter than me in just about every way, but there is one way that I am equally smart as you.
Okay.
Both of us married people that do not work in media at all.
As I like to say, people say, is your husband in the business? And I say, no, he's a civilian.
Yes. Is that the only way to stay sane in this business is to, not the only way, but the best way to stay sane?
You know what? I think that, especially being a woman, you need to be married to someone who has as much passion for what they do as I do. My husband is an archaeologist. He's the smartest person I know, but he's also the street smartest person I know. And we made a choice together, which is certainly having a child. I didn't want somebody else to raise my child. And my husband had enough flexibility in his schedule once he got his PhD and started teaching that we could make that work. And so that's the best thing that I have is you need a spouse who respects and understands what you do, and in my case, isn't expecting dinner to be on the table at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. So
well, good. Well, that was marrying someone outside the business was one of the wiser decisions.
Yes.
I mean, perhaps the only one.
And they're also good with telling you when you're good and not good.
Exactly, because they're just watching. They're not worried about your ego. They're not worried about. I mean, honestly, like, I guarantee my wife is watching this right now being like, you're doing terribly, and please stop. Not you, to me, obviously. Speaking of which, last question. You are famous for being one of the best interviewers in all of sports journalism. So how am I doing? Am I doing okay? It's very nerve-wracking to interview someone that is that good of a reporter.
You're doing well, thank you. But ask me a question and try not to give me options for it, yes.
How are you?
I'm great, how are you?
I did it! Okay, now we have a game.
That's it? That was it? That was the last question?
Yeah, well, now we got a game.
Okay. Oh, now we have a game.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
kicking you out of here.
Okay.
Okay, this game is called, perhaps inevitably, Kramer versus Kramer, where we are going to give you quotes. They were either said by Cosmo Kramer or by Andrea Kremer.
Oh,
So
no.
you tell me which person said
Okay.
them. Question number one. Joe DiMaggio, you know, this time I went and sat across from him and I really watched him. I studied his every move.
It's got to be Cosmo.
That's correct. That is that
Okay.
Kramer. That's the correct Kramer. Question number two. If you think I'm going to come down to the field and talk about how so-and-so pulled himself up by his own bootstraps, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, we know who that is. That would be me.
That's the Andrea
That would be
Kremer.
me.
That's correct. Question number three. That is correct. I did classical ballet.
Oh, yeah. Almost 20 years.
I know, that's
Yes,
you.
that would be me.
So that's her.
That would
She's
be
referring
me.
to her as the
That
answer.
would be me.
I was going to get, you know, it's funny. We had Leah Thompson on the show, and she also did classical ballet growing up. But she said that she has a story where apparently, literally, Mikhail Baryshnikov told her, yeah, you can't do it. When she was like 14, and she's like, well, I can't really kid myself.
Better to know from him.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
There you go.
When he says it. Okay, question four. You ever see Michael Jordan? He'll do one of those 360 dunks.
Did I say that or did Cosmo say that? I'm gonna assume Cosmo said it because I know that I've seen it, but I don't know that I've ever said it.
That's correct. It is Cosmo.
Okay,
Kramer.
okay.
And last question. Last one of the five. See if we can get all five. I'd like to thank the Minnesota Vikings for 12 great years, and I'm looking forward to continuing my career with the New Orleans Saints.
Well, that's not
Okay, that's
me.
Tommy Kramer.
I was
Sorry.
that's right.
That's Tommy Kramer. That's just a little way to.
But at least I didn't say myself, so that's
Exactly.
a good thing.
That's weird.
That's a good thing.
Okay, last thing we do, we have a game we call how many words can you say really quickly on the show that you're on with Will right now? It's a very complicated acronym. It's basically Outburst. Remember the old game Outburst, where if I put, basically you have 30 seconds, and I said, okay, name as many apostles as you can. And you would have 30 seconds to say as many as you can. So you have 30 seconds on the clock, 30 seconds on the imaginary clock somewhere on here. Name as many as you can. There's no wrong answers. I mean, there are wrong answers, but they won't count against you. So just shout out names. Name as many past winners of the Rosella Radio TV Award as you can in 30 seconds. I'll give you a second to compose, to be prepared. I don't want to spring it on you. So we're going to go 30 seconds, okay? Are we ready? 30 seconds on the clock. Ready, go.
Well, I want to start with the first woman, Leslie Visser.
That's correct.
My dear friend, Al Michaels. James Brown.
Yes.
Dick Enberg.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Myron Cope.
Yes, correct. 10
Right.
seconds. Good job. 5. And time.
David Hill.
David Hill's correct.
David
Good job.
Hill was
David Hill's
last year,
correct.
right.
So there's a few they missed because there's been 30 of them.
Yeah.
One I noticed that you missed. Andrea Kremer.
Well, I'm not going to say
Kramer.
myself. You've already said that enough
Well, this would have
times.
counted as a point, and we have an ongoing historical scoring system. Andrea, we don't. Literally, I have no idea how many people have ever gotten any of them on the show. Andrea Kremer, thank you very much for coming on, and seriously, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very
It's so
much
nice to see you again. We
Yeah, of
must
course.
do this more often.
I will.
I think we last saw each other a few years ago. Far too much time has passed, even though we have been on radio shows where we've heard each other's voices.
Exactly.
But seeing your cherubic face is a whole different situation.
We'll go with
Thanks.
cherubic.
In all sincerity, thanks for having
We'll go
me
with,
on.
of course, my honor. Andrea Kremer is the best. Thank you for watching The Will Leitch Show. Come back to si.tv, Amazon channels, or wherever your Will Leitches are sold.